What is going on, everybody? It is Madman Plant. We are here back in the studio with a wonderful podcast today. One of the things I'm always doing is finding heroic people in the community, whether that's through storytelling, whether that's through meet and greets, whether that's through traveling, or honestly just meeting people in different communities. And tonight's story is going to be very special. I have Triston in the background, but oh, look, there's Logan. Thanks, kid, dropping me off great old sour gummy worms. Gotta love that. Trolley bright colors, even since I was a kid, are still a heavy hitter. So tonight's going to be a very in-depth conversation. There will be graphical parts, so viewer discretion advised. But it's really about empowerment, education, and bringing the forefront to people in situations like this and learning about the value and the stories behind it. Plus, going to do a little, science on you and talk a little bit about cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavior therapy. And those are two things. And to give you an idea, this also changes the way you experience situations. So to give you an idea, CBT helps you recognize negative thoughts and change the way you react to them. All about breaking the cycle. So thought, emotion, reaction. So with CBT, it's understanding that, like, let's say, for an example, if you were to say, I'm worthless, I'll never get better, this leads to depression, isolation, and giving up. CBT flips this script and it says, I feel bad right now, but this doesn't mean I'm worthless. This leads to motivation, self-reflection, and action. DBT, for an example, would be, I'm pissed, so I'm going to lash out or numb myself. With DBT, it's, I can't control everything, but I can control how I respond. DBT helps you stay calm, handle emotions, stop acting on impulse, and it's great for people who are filled overwhelmed, angry, or shut down. And throughout tonight, we're going to outline a little bit about this, because one of the biggest things about this story in particular, and all the stories I've told before, is a lot of the thought processes and how people go through things is really all about psychology. And I love learning this. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Triston here.
Nice to meet
What's
you,
going
guys.
on, dude?
Hey, how's it going, Stefan? Nice to meet
I'm
everybody.
I'm doing well, Triston. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us and inform us and educate us.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Dude, it's awesome. So you're in Texas, so obviously short sleeves and t-shirt. Definitely looks warm out there. What's it
Most
like in
definitely.
Texas right now?
Right now, it is in the 50s.
Isn't it?
Pretty good out here.
It's in the 50s, and you're in t-shirt. I would see. I'm a person that gets cold very easily. So if it means it's in the 50s, I'm starting to think I need a sweatshirt, a hoodie, blanket. I'm like balling up here.
Well, the sun is out today, and it's really, the UV is really high, so that makes a big difference.
Is it humid out there? Because I will
Yeah,
tell
it's
you
really
this,
humid. It's
it
really,
is a
really
little bit.
humid. Yeah,
And then what part of Texas are you in?
I'm in Houston.
Okay. So that's pretty awesome. And then are in Houston, are you part of that's right outside of the city? Are you in the suburbs of it, or
No, I'm actually in Houston, like actually the city of Houston.
okay. Well, that's pretty awesome. All right, well, let's just jump into this, man. I'm really excited to have you here and to tell your story. Let's start early. A lot of people have early journeys in life, and this is where a lot of everything gets formed. So,
Alright.
as early as you can remember, where do we start off?
And Lil Tristan was a kid that was very what's the word I'm looking for? He didn't like being pushed around at all. He got pushed around a lot. at home already as it was, but he did not like being pushed around when he was at school or hanging out like with other kids. So Will Triston fought a lot, honestly. But I had to put up with a lot of stuff as a kid, honestly. In my home, it was very divided as a child. My mother, she had a lot of favoritism. So my sisters had everything they ever wanted, and me and my brother, we kind of went without. We got a lot of our stuff from hand-me-downs and thrift shops and just subsidizing. That's where all of our toys came from, usually, was subsidizing. And it caused a divide where there was just this feeling of isolation, like, your own siblings are kind of better than you. You can't really associate with them. And at school, I didn't really get along with other kids a whole lot because, like I said, I was fighting a lot. Kids would pick on me for this or pick on me for that. I usually grew up in neighborhoods where white people were the 1% when I was younger, and I'll get picked on a lot for my race. And so I was throwing hands a lot. It's just every day on a daily basis as it was, really without a reason for it. Once I got a little bit older, I got into foster care a few times before I turned age 10. I went in and out a few times. And once I turned 10 years old, my mom actually got custody for the last time. She was not giving custody back again after that. They said, this is your last dance, we're giving you too many. And I spent pretty much the rest of my time in foster care after that. And when I was 13, things got real bad. I was in an incident where at one of the group homes I lived in, one of the younger kids was getting picked on. At the time, I was 13 and he was 12, and this was my only friend, so I wanted to stand up for him. And he was getting picked on by force as a 10-year-old. And I was like, look, y'all might be able to overpower me, but I know more than you do, and I'm not afraid of you. This is what will happen if you mess with me. And the day came where we were unsupervised and they ganged up on him. And I was right there, and I broke a glass bottle that I had in my hands on the curb that I had been drinking a soda out of. And they ran inside, told the staff there. I was trying to stab them. I was chasing them around. They had a whole bunch of stories. And I actually got arrested that night and sent to juvenile detention. And that also started a really long spiral downward. Because after that, I was labeled. I was no longer just a kid. I was a troubled kid who had a lot of problems. So foster parents will that track record, and it doesn't matter what your level of care is. You can see if the right level of care says, hey, he's allowed to have a foster home. We don't have to institutionalize him. And they'll see your track record and still say, we don't want him, we don't want him. So I never got another foster home after being 13 ever again. I was put in only facilities after that. And this was really low down and dirty places. All these places, the kids there were either thrown in like you. They didn't really have a whole lot of they didn't have a whole lot to work with, and they were fighting for everything that they had. So it was just like animals going at each other all the time. People were really fighting to survive. It wasn't because they wanted to. And then you had the ones that were really there because they needed to be there. They were problem children that just wanted to wolf everybody's ass for no reason. And those were other people you had to watch out for. And I remember having to fight for my food a lot of times at a lot of places. It got really rough, but that's the point in my life where I really settled down actually the most. And I stopped fighting just because I felt like somebody was going to push me around, or I felt like somebody was going to say something that, was over the line. It was the first time I really only fought when I absolutely had to. And even then, I tried to tone it down a lot. I tried to keep it at a minimum.
Now, going through this, what were your thoughts and everything with your mom at the time? Like, how did you feel about, being taken away and like your relationship with her and everything? How does that, correlate with everything that's going on?
That's a great question, actually. So, a lot of times throughout my childhood, when I was being taken away, getting that, taken away, getting that, it was a heartbreaking thing. It was very heartbreaking. Because at the time, my mother was really all I knew. Now, as time went on and I got a little more adjusted to foster care from going in and out so much, I started to realize that it wasn't such a bad thing, and that maybe I was actually better off there than with her. And the last time I got taken at 10 years old, I actually remember feeling emotionless about it. I remember feeling very shallow and just emotionless about it, not really caring at all. Just like, okay, we'll either get shaken back and we won't. And if we won't, then all's better. And that was really kind of where I really feel now like I kind of had a breaking point of maturity right there mentally.
Now, after that point, you didn't see your mom again at all, or any
Well,
family.
I still had visitation a little bit, very rarely, not very often.
Now,
And during the, oh, go ahead.
oh no, I didn't. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead.
Oh, well, I guess I was gonna say is what was your mom's like thought process or explanation if you did have visitation? Like, was it like apologetic, like I'm so sorry that you're in this position, or was it just like it was kind of oblivious to the fact that hey, I'm here now?
It was always, I'm sorry, I'll work on it, I'm working on it, or I'll get better. But, I realized at a very young age, because of that, that people have to choose to want to get better. It's not about just trying. And that she wasn't really trying, and that's not something that you have to keep forgetting.
Got you. Now, with everything that's going on, you talked about multiple foster homes and kind of like a fight to survive, kind of like a Hunger Games, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How does that shift the young mentality where, most kids like my kid who's 9 years old is worried about gaming and computers and, kid stuff. And here you are on a day-to-day basis about survival. How does that play with a mindset like that?
And that's actually a great question. It really just has a whole 360 on you. You go from worrying about how can I get a video game? I think I had a video game console before. To I have to worry about my survival and my protection every day. I need to go get in good with these guys over here because these guys can defend me. Or I need to go fight this guy over here ahead of time because this guy over here, I know he's going to try to beat me up tomorrow for no reason. And I want to make sure I put my foot down now. And it quickly goes from worrying about some things that are, just fantasy, nonchalant, everyday child things, to worrying about how am I going to make it past tomorrow.
Now, what type of environment are the staff aware of? And are they always like involved with everything that's going in? Is this a lot behind the doors where maybe adults aren't even aware, or are they aware? And do they know that this is going on?
There's a lot that goes on that they are aware of in terms of one eye on, and then there's also a lot that they aren't aware of. And I think the stuff that they aren't aware of is usually the stuff that we're all cool with, like we have this and they're not supposed to know about it. The stuff they are aware of and they turn the light on, that's the stuff that I worry about all the time. Like you have a lot of staff that they don't want to worry about breaking up fights. So they'll tell the kids straight up, if you got a problem, take it over there. I don't want to deal with it. And so they'll wait until they catch you. They'll wait until they catch you in a good area, and that's when they get you.
So it's almost like prison.
Almost, yeah, a lot like that. I compare it to that a lot of times. That one of the placements I was in when I was a lot younger, about 12 probably. They had this thing going on where, and I think only one of the staff really knew about it and would let it go on. He was cool with it. We had bathrooms that were a lot like what you see in juvenile, just showers that were lined up next to each other with curtains, and the sinks are right here. It's a big bathroom, and that's where we go for fights. Every time that we have the staff on shift, any night that he was on shift, they go in there and would fight. And you pretty much had to if you were new there because it was like oh well he hasn't fought yet. He pretty much got to. They're gonna pressure him into it and bully him until he does. And that was something where you had everybody got in there and got matched up against somebody and had to fight.
So when we were talking the other day, how we did our little pre-call where I had you just say everything. And
Yeah.
for those that don't know, in the chat, and there's some really great people that are saying hi to you. We got
Hey, what's up?
Alan Garden Genetics, we got High and Tight, we got Lacey, my beautiful wife.
Hi.
Triston is completely blind. So he can't see any of the comments.
Anyone.
So if there's anything that you do want to say throughout the podcast, type in the chat and I will announce it to him. When we talked, you made a statement that said, trust no one, always be ready for a fight and expect the worst.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and why the mindset is like that. Like, how do you in those times see positive if those are statements and the feelings that you have being in an environment like that?
So living through that kind of situation and having that kind of mindset was really rough. The only brightness that I had was the phone call I got with my dad on the phone, or the visitation I might have with my siblings once every 15 months, if even that. And that was really what I had to look forward to. Just a little bit of time out of here. To a brief moment. That was it. I didn't really have turning 18 to look forward to because I had nothing waiting for me after that. No sort of finance or anything set up. I was just going to be thrown out on my own with no help from the system. And that's not exactly how it was, but that's a lot how it was. And I was really lost once I did get out. But I had that feeling a lot throughout being in care that this guy's gonna stab me in the back at any moment. Like, even my own friends, the paranoia starts to get to you after a while. Because there's even a placement where I had one of my own friends beat the crap out of me because a staff told him to do it. I had knocked the staff's PlayStation. He had got the PlayStation 4 Pro right when it came out. And I moved the table it was sitting on because two kids were wrestling nearby and were about to knock it over. And I ended up accidentally knocking it over by twist of fate. And he got mad and he just like started cussing me out and stuff. I was like, hey, it was an accident. I was just trying to help out. Later on, I hear him talking in the bathroom with one of the other kids that I was actually friends with. One of my only friends there. And I hear him talking and stuff about like, yeah, it's just real quick, no one's gonna know. And I know that basically he's planning on having this kid whip my ass for money. Or for food. There has people do stuff like that for food a lot. Because kids couldn't really go out and spend money. There's no point in having it. So, so I go in there and I try to initiate the fight ahead of time because I'm like, okay, this is gonna happen. I just will start it before he starts it. I don't want him sneaking up on me. And I ended up getting sent to a hospital that night. And really, that's what sparked off a lot of paranoia. That time right there, just one of my own friends doing that to me. And once I got back into care, because I was running away from care and I stayed gone for a few months. And while I was on the run, I had a little bit of time to sort of recuperate. But at the same time, I was with my mom, so not so much. And I was homeless after that because she kicked me out. And that was when I had time to really, get my mind together. I got back into care, went back into the facility, started getting back on top of everything. I stopped fighting at that point. I stopped looking for a fight when I didn't need to. And I started just really laying down my ground when I absolutely had to at that point. But I no longer looked for friends. And when people came to me, I made sure that I listened to who they were as a person before I trusted them after that.
Now, you made a comment that said people in the facilities saw children as damaged, and it created like a never-ending cycle, if you will, for children.
Oh, definitely.
Before I have you go on that, High and Tight, I don't think heard the first part of the conversation, and his question to you was, what led to you being in foster care? Do you want to give him just a brief recap?
Yeah, I actually didn't go too much into that yet. My mother has had a serious problem with drug abuse throughout the years. And that's actually what led to me going into foster care. Not only drug abuse, but physical abuse towards me and my brother.
Okay. And let's see here. Alan Garden Genetics said, Triston, great to hear from you, brother. Cody Rose says hi. High and Tight also I understand that Triston is interested in being a motivational speaker. We're going to talk about that towards the end. Um, and he's saying that he's sorry that this happened to you and your brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, give me the definition of a damaged child from what you've learned being in the foster care compared to what people label as damaged.
I don't really think there is such thing as a damaged child. I think they're children who've been through a lot of shit throughout their life, and they've got a lot of problems because of it. And nobody's really taking the time to work with them because they say, oh, that's a damaged child, and they back up and keep their distance. But I don't really think there is such thing as a damaged child. I think there are a lot of children out there who have been through so much crap in their life that they pick up a lot of bad habits and problems along the way. And nobody ever stops for a second to really take a look at the fact that they need help. They're not just bad.
Now, going on that, a little bit about what you said here, you talked about foster care often felt more like a prison than a place of support. And when you went to jail when you were 13, which we're about to dive into here in a couple minutes, you actually felt at more peace than being free, quote unquote, in the foster care. Talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot like Mike Tyson's story, ironically. I spent 2 weeks in juvenile before they actually declared me innocent. And I had the most peaceful time of my life while I was in there. But while I was there, I was allowed to sit in my room the whole time and just read all day. And that's what I did. As a child, I loved reading. And nobody messed with me because the other kids there were just there to do their time and get out. The staff there, I didn't have to worry about the staff there putting hands on me violently or paying the other kids to put their hands on me violently in any way or form. I didn't have to worry about, any sort of anything happening to me the whole time I was there. I minded my business. I stayed in my room, I read books, and I left. I actually had better food there than when I was in foster care even.
Now, were there instances like where maybe there was like a Christmas and everybody had a really good time and you would see moments or maybe glimpses of peace and serenity in the foster care, or was it pretty much day by day, usual as usual type thing?
Yeah, there were times where there were times I actually had foster homes where during Christmas time or birthdays and things like that, they actually take good attention to you. And it really made things feel not so bad.
So let's talk about one thing is I was adopted. I was not in the foster care. However, I was in an orphanage. So I was adopted from Romania in 1989. Well, actually in 1990 because I was 2 years. Yeah, so I'm actually from Romania, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
So in that, yeah, it's kind of cool. When I was younger, I didn't want people to know I was adopted because I didn't think people thought that was cool. And, kids would make fun of you and say, well, you don't have real parents. And I believe real parents are the ones that are in your lives, regardless of, who they are or what they've done or whatever. But I was brought to the United States because my parents couldn't have their own kids. So I was in an orphanage. So like you, I was just with everybody else. And then, I found my way out. But I don't remember a lot of it like you do. But what were some of the moments that were the hardest lessons you say you would learn by being in foster care?
Oof, let me think. That's difficult. Oh, one of the ones that I had to learn in foster care that was a really hard lesson is that a lot of the foster parents have biological children before they decided to foster that they still had with them while fostering. And you know that saying, blood is thicker than water?
Yep.
Well, it's true. It's very true. And you have to put up with a lot of favoritism because of that. You have to put up with one foster house, and they still use all the money they got from the state for me and my sisters on their kids. And I remember on my birthday, I got a little bag of spinning tops that you like buy at the 99-cent store, and another bag of little sticky toys like that you also get there. And that's all I got for my birthday. But their son got the newest model of iPad Air. He got a drone. He got a few other things, and I was like, "What the heck?" And I was actually upset. I was like, "Why don't we get anything for Christmas or on our birthday?"
So that's very interesting. Did any of the kids understand why they would have siblings that weren't in foster care and they were? I mean, that not only is that like a disheartening feeling, but like, wow, like what a slap in the fucking face. Like, goddamn, you really hate me that
Yeah,
much? Like, shit,
yeah,
and I
it,
foster them too. Like, goddamn it.
yeah. It makes it feel like there's not that parental bond between you and the foster parents because the kids that they actually had will always have that bond way more than you.
you know, that's one thing that I will say that I'm very thankful for my parents. My parents have loved me like I was their own. And I'm sure that it's kind of like a maybe, I mean, I don't want to compare it to adopting a puppy, but it's one of those things where you have to have the open heart to bring somebody into your life like that. And I think it takes a lot. And that's why I also believe that the title parent isn't just because you have a kid. Title parents because you actually play the role of a parent and you guide your child and you're there to support them regardless of what happens. And good or bad or indifferent, that would break my heart as an orphan or being in foster care, knowing that I have siblings that are loved and I'm not. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
even know that was a thing. That's something that you just blew my mind on. Now, did let's see here. Were there moments where you remember before you went blind, did you ever see Matilda?
Yes, I love that
Okay,
movie.
yeah, right. And the Trunchable, right?
Yep,
Was
it's
it
kind of cool.
was
Yeah.
was it ever like that where like children got like severely punished and like crazy shit? Or how did they treat children? Was there an authority figure that would oversee what was happening to you guys, or was it all closed doors and they kind of run the place?
So the staff was meant to be like that out in the open. Yeah, not out in the open, behind closed doors. And the people that you could go to, well, could go to without it, they they're never around, and you have no way of contacting them. They always have some stupid soldier on the wall with grievance forms that you can fill out, and those grievance forms never get a response. And that's really the only way you can ever communicate with a higher up. So if something happens to you, it's like you really have nobody to tell about it. But they do have posters on the wall where there's hotlines for the state that you can call, and they'll actually send out investigators. Now, the problem is the investigators usually come out, and they can't just talk to the kids and put out their requests. They gotta talk to everybody. And the problem is always that there's more kids who are afraid to speak out than there are who are willing to talk about it. And so the investigators leave, and nothing is happening about it. So, no, there's really nothing you can do about it. And yes, there are times where staff are like that. There was one time at my second to last placement, when I was 17 actually, I had this one staff, he was talking to one of the kids, and me and him really climb around a lot, so he was in a bad mood this day. And I threw a little piece of paper at him, and I was like, hey, it's a little catch. And he got mad as hell, and he turned around, he came into my room, and closed the door, and he was like, you guys do anything like that again? I'll whoop your ass. Like, I don't care, like, nobody's gonna even know, And I was like, what the hell? I didn't even know he was like that.
It's like ballsy because what if the guy who you're saying all that shit to could kick your ass and then he just beats your ass for saying that shit to him? He's like, nah, I'm not that guy. And then he gets his ass whooped like a catch 22. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, yeah, he is an adult, and he is like he is pretty fucking stocky. That this guy's like 5'2", so. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want no smoke. And that's one of those situations. Even if you win that fight, that's an adult who works there, and you know he started it. Nobody's gonna believe you.
well, I guess I mean you're just a kid at that point. So what are you gonna do? It's and unless you have somebody that's actually looking out for you, which definitely doesn't sound like you did.
No.
Nobody gives a fuck enough.
No.
Um, all right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch conversations to juvenile detention. Now, with juvenile detention, this is interesting because you were sentenced due to a misunderstanding involving a glass bottle, and you served a 2-week sentence, which was the most peaceful time of your childhood. So let's talk about one misunderstood. So the misunderstanding and what did that feel like?
Honestly, it had me extremely upset because I was trying to do the right thing and got thrown under the bus. Now, the guys that I was sticking up for, they didn't fool him into talk to him at all. They fooled in me, and they fooled in the 4 kids who were actually the perpetrators to talk to. And since this 4 versus 1, their story automatically got heard out more. And it was even more frustrating after I got out because of the fact that it jeopardized the rest of my living arrangements for the rest of my time in foster care, and that kid that I was standing up for basically ghosted me on social media. He started leaving me on red all the time, and I just got upset because I was like, "Whoa, dude, I threw away my life for you almost. I don't feel owed anything, but at the same time, if you don't want to talk to me, you can always say that." So I had a lot of anger in my heart after the whole thing had happened because of the fact that I was trying to do a good thing and ended up getting thrown under the bus. And later on, actually, ironically enough, some of the kids, 2 of them, I think, no, one of them, who was part of that situation, had reached out to me and hadn't tried to apologize or anything, just wanted to know how it had been going after all these years. I blocked them right away. I had nothing to say. I had a lot of things I wanted to say, but I had nothing I needed to say. I just blocked them.
Now, with that being said, so you get incarcerated, you go to 2 weeks, and then talk about peace in a place where there's, I'm sure, lots of noise and a lot of people very frustrated and very angry. Um, Talk a little bit about that, how that sits in, because it's funny that you say that because Mike Tyson, when he got locked up, he said that when he was in prison, it was the most peaceful time of his
Yep.
life.
I
And it's
remember
very,
watching that interview.
and I want to know, how does that set in? Like, is it just because nobody can touch you? Is it because you're just isolated? Talk a little bit about that.
It was really scary at first because of the fact that, just because of, honestly, the aesthetic of it all. You're going from living in a place that looks like a home to living in a place where it's nothing but cinder block walls covered in white paint or some other dry color. And all the windows are completely shatterproof and they don't open. And all the doors to the outside have keypad locks on them that require a key card or a code of some kind. It's honestly terrifying because it's like you're a specimen in a laboratory all of a sudden. And then all the other kids around you have this angry, upset attitude about them, like they're just looking for a fight. And you're witnessing all these fights going on around you constantly over dumb things, like the Xbox controller wasn't passed on in time or whatever. And it was like catching a curveball. You had to learn quick it's like sink or swim all of a sudden. Because all these other kids start to take advantage of you, realizing you're new to this sort of system and you don't know how to operate it. You're like, oh, well, I'll give you this if you give me that. And really, all they're doing is just coercing you out of your things until you got nothing.
Damn, the hustle is real. Like,
Yeah.
but I guess it'd be like being a foreigner in a different country, being swindled out, thinking you're getting something for nothing type deal. So, and then, I guess in some ways there's some correlations because how the kind of the corruption, if you will, and just how the foster care system ran with, the kids having to fight for what's theirs, everybody kind of like on toes in your face. It almost carried the same environment.
Most definitely.
So with that being said, talk like I was saying is like what during your day being incarcerated was peaceful to you? Like, is it just like give me some activities that you would do that invoke peace? Would it be like walking the yard, laying in your bed, just like dozing off, thinking about things?
Well, at the time, I really just started doing sit-ups because I started gaining weight from all the medications they had me on, and I was actually starting to get pretty chunky. And I'll do a lot of that when I was in my room, and I'll do a lot of reading, and that was really all I did to occupy my entire day. That was it. And those two things gave me a lot of peace because I didn't have to abide by I didn't have to abide by all these. Oh, you need to get up and go to this. We expect you to do this. We expect you to do that. As long as I got up and I showered when it was shower time, and I ate when it was food time, and like there's three things you gotta do today, and that was it. And so as long as those three things were fulfilled, I was left alone to do what I wanted. I was left in peace. Nobody bothered me. Nobody was harassing me. Nobody was up my ass telling me I had to do this. And nobody was trying to push me around or avoid me the whole time I was there.
Now, what about influence? When you're in jail, the most I've ever been in jail was like a couple of days at a time for driving over 100 miles an hour, because in Virginia, if you go more than 100 miles an hour, you spend time in jail. And with that being said, I was in like, like a little intake pod. So like a little dorm, not even in general pop. But are there people that you met along the way that were like you, who were still had hope and were trying to kind of find your place in the world? Or was a lot of it more about this, like how the system worked and, knowing how to play the game, and more just kind of like watching yours type thing?
In foster care or in juvenile?
We're talking about juvenile now.
Okay, so there's one guy I remember talking to his mother on the phone, talking about he promised he was going to get his stuff together, and actually talking about how he was going to the school there at juvenile and what he was going to do when he got out, and he actually had goals for when he got out. But it shows that he was real about what he was talking about. And everybody else there kind of just sat around depressed and they cried when they got on the phone. And that was one guy that I really felt like was trying to turn his life around at that point.
Now, going through those, what do you think that you most learned about yourself during those 2 weeks being alone and having that time and space? Because I'm sure, even myself, I don't give myself enough time to be alone with myself like maybe I should, and have that type of reflection.
I was about to say that I learned doing the right thing isn't always a good idea, but I continued hurting myself for years after that trying to do the right thing. But I did learn that you gotta be careful about how you go about it. And, in that situation, I had to do what I had to do to defend myself because they actually turned on me too. But I didn't have to get involved with him, and I could have just turned away. And I actually had thought to myself for a long time during that time that I shouldn't have stepped in. But then once I got out, I went back to I don't care. I'm gonna always do what I think is right.
Now, with that being said, after you left foster care, I mean not juvenile detention, where did you go then after those 2 weeks?
Honestly, that is really blurry for me. Let me think. The years
Where
of
do, where do you remember being next after being incarcerated? It's like, I
okay,
was in jail and then I was on the beach somewhere,
this is gonna suck, but my memory gaps about my childhood is bad. The next part I can remember is when I was 15, and that was at my placement in San Antonio that actually got shut down not too long ago for the corruption. And some of the kids who used to live there with me, I got in contact with one of them, and they told me about it. I was like, hell yeah, no way, hell yeah.
Okay,
and
so
that was the last place, yeah.
so the next thing you remember, you're 15 years old in San Antonio, Texas, right? So that leaves us 4 years to cover before you turn 19, which your incident took place. So let's talk a little bit about San Antonio. So when you were in San Antonio, who were you with at that time?
At the time in San Antonio, let's see, I was living in a place called Guiding Light, the one that got shut down.
Mm-hmm. Now is that another foster care like
It's
housing?
another facility.
Is it like a halfway house or what type of facility is it?
It's a lot like a halfway house, yeah. It's not like the other facilities I told you about where all the walls are cinder block. So they actually had four two-story houses, and it was already pretty crowded to begin with. We had four people to a little room, and the beds were literally only 3 feet apart from each other. So like we were all on top of each other pretty much. It sucked.
So
And
kind of like a group home.
yeah, kind of like a group home, but kind of like a facility at the same time. And
Okay.
once they decided that they didn't just want to have boys there, they actually got girls moved in also. Do you need me to move somewhere else because of the noise?
Say that last part one more
Do
time.
you want me to move somewhere else because of the noise?
Oh,
I think it's going on
I
now.
don't hear any noise.
Oh, there's a lawnmower. It's alright, okay. So,
No, I can't hear a lawnmower. So that
oh,
works. So
well,
continue.
it was really crowded there already to begin with, and once they decided they wanted to have girls there also, they took all the boys out of one home and just distributed them throughout the other homes. And so now things were way more packed in. And it got to a point where even students got scared. And that really sucked. That place was horrible, honestly. There, like 90% of the kids there was punch holes in the wall over and over again. And because it was pretty much everybody doing it, they could never punish anybody for it. So the walls in the bathroom were always just completely destroyed. And the lady who owned the place, she was rich, and I don't know if it's because her nephew or somebody was a football player, but somebody in her family was a football player that had a lot of money, and she was rich. So she could afford to just keep fixing it all. And she actually told us one time, y'all keep doing all this, go ahead. It doesn't change anything. You'll just be stuck here longer. I've got the money to keep putting up new walls.
Uh, that's actually kind of comical in a way, but I mean that's kind of fucked up. It's like keep doing that. I'll just replace it next week. Now, okay, so in that environment there, how long were you there until you moved, and then where do you go next? So that's 15. What does 16 look like?
Ooh, I was there for a short while actually. I was there for I want to say about 5 months probably. Maybe a little bit longer than that.
Now,
And
do they tell you that you're going to be there for 5 months, or one
no,
day you
they
just get
don't.
the notification you're shipped out?
No, they don't tell you at all how long you're going to be there. You get in there and they give you like an assessment, and The wait list is there. I'm not sure if it's the same at all placements, but the wait list is there. Was the therapist was in full control who left. Full control. And I don't know if they were slipping him money under the tables as being an a-hole and lying stuff, but he was. And he was intentionally lying to keep you there longer, saying that you're suicidal even if you're not. You got this problem, you got that problem, you got anger issues even if he's never been in a fight. And this guy was a real jerk. I mean, like, there are times where you go and talk to him, and you're like, I'm really depressed because, my grandpa just died, and my baby brother passed away. And he would say something like, okay, so, have you been eating? Yeah, okay, cool. Have a nice day. And he was really just change the subject, not care at all what you're bringing up or talking about, no matter what it is, and just start talking about other crap. And basically, a lot of the kids are told, oh, well, you might be able to leave in 3 months, but then he pulls something, and oh, you'll be here 4 more months or 5 more months. And some of the kids have been there for up to 2 years already.
Oh, so it's like they like try to intentionally set your time back. So
Yeah,
if they know like your time's coming up, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll get you 2 more months here or whatever it may be."
yeah. One of the directors there, not gonna go with any names, I don't want any liability. One of the directors there actually, one of the kids had gotten mad because, everything is so correct here. And the grievance forms, they didn't really do a whole lot, like I told you before. And this kid starts complaining to one of the directors. And the director gets mad because the kids are yelling at him. So he picks him up by his neck. This kid is really scrawny. He's really scrawny and small. The director somehow picks him up by his neck and slams him through one of those folding plastic tables. And after that, we were not allowed to call caseworkers or anybody on the phone for over a week. And they took all the grievance forms off the wall just because they were worried it might be able to do something for us. Now, once I got out of there, at 16 years old, let me try to think. Well, once I got out of there, I got out because, like I told you, I got in so badly after one of the staff had told the kids to do it that I ended up in the hospital. And once I got back from the hospital, I just ran away. I ran off. I came up with an escape plan that same day I got back, and I just took off. And I went to go live with my mother, and it was a very abusive situation because of the fact that she was still heavy into drug use, and at the time was really only focused on herself and what she wanted at the time. And I was there for maybe 3 or 4 months before she kicked me out. And my caseworker picked me up and put me in a place called the Bridge, which is in San Antonio. At least that's what they called it at the time. I think the name might have changed. But this was like a temporary emergency shelter for kids and for foster kids and for homeless teenagers. And I stayed there for a few weeks. I don't know exactly how long. If I took a break real quick, Can
What's that?
I take a quick break real quick? Go get some water.
Oh yeah, you know what, Tristan, guys, we are here anyways at our hour break. We will be back in 5 minutes. So take your time, Tristan. Do what you got to do,
All right,
and then we'll be back here in 5 minutes, guys.
all right, sounds good.
All right, we are back and we are here to continue this great interview. And we're going to get into the heart of and the potatoes, meat and potatoes of this conversation here. We get Triston back on. I think he's about ready. You can see him getting all stage out. You ready, Triston? You there?
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, we're back into it, and we're gonna carry on. We've already done 1 hour together, so feeling pretty good, right? Are you feeling good, Triston?
Feeling good, man. Feeling great.
We should feel great. We're both excited, and we both got a lot to talk about. So, mainly, we're going to start to talk about closer to 19. And if you do have questions for Triston, make sure to put them in the chat. So we were just talking about foster care and all that. So, after you planned your escape and ran away, that's where you left us. Continue on.
All right. Yeah, once I got back into foster care after that, I had a lot of time bouncing around from temporary placement to temporary placement. As a lot of people know, the system is flooded right now. And it's already crowded with kids waiting lists, so they keep adding more and more that don't need to be there. Because there's a lot of parents that really shouldn't have their children taken away, but do. And so I spent like probably almost a year bouncing around in temporary homes. Just places where you can only be there for up to 3 months and then you gotta go. And let's see, when I was 17, when I was 16, they had me at a placement in Houston. This placement was actually not like the rest. When you first come in, they got a fence surrounding the perimeter with razor wire at the top that kind of spirals around. And one of those gate fences that slides open when it comes in the coast or a car to come in. I was like, I do not want to be here right off the jump. And I got in there, it actually wasn't that bad of a place. The only thing I didn't like about it was that because it was very, very new, they just built it like a year before I moved in, or 2 years. They didn't really have a whole lot to do. There's not a whole lot of activity. There was no playing video games on the Xbox unless it was Sunday. There was no, you could watch TV in your room, but only for like 2 hours a day. And that place I really just did not like at all. It was way too scheduled and strict. It's like we were living on a every 10 minutes is something you gotta do type of schedule. And while I was there, what do you call it? They actually had this thing I really hated going to, where even during summer, they would have somebody come over from this thing called Fort H, and or is it Fort F? No, I think it's Fort H. But they basically teach you about agriculture and farming and things and nature and things like that. And we had to spend our whole summer listening to that every day. I'm like, oh my god. One day, actually, on a doctor's appointment, I was running away from there. I got taken back. I ended up staying there a little longer. Once I got moved out of there, I don't know exactly how many places I stayed in after that. Actually, yeah, I went to this place called. Well, it was another temporary home. I don't remember the name of it. It was in Rosenberg, and it was a two-story house that this couple owned, and they would have staff come in and out like a group home or like a halfway home type setting, and they would look after us. And it was really chill there. I loved it there. The schedule was great. All of those temporary placements were always great, but the problem is they're always temporary. And after that, I got moved to a place called Jezero in League City, and that's when I was 17. Or 16 turning 17 while I was there. And that place actually got shut down also because a staff upstate in Ohio at another facility that they have in Ohio, because they have facilities all over the world, had killed a child with an improper restraint. he has restrained him, and I guess he either killed him because he was being way too rough, he was mad at him, or just didn't know what he was doing. But all of his facilities got shut down because of that. That facility actually ended up on the news while I was there because we had a riot that caused so much damage. It ended up on the news. And the funny thing is, the furniture is actually what made up most of that damage. Now, once I left there, I was at one last placement, and that was the place where I was really out in the middle of nowhere, and that was in West Texas at a ranch. And he had a lot of different little homes, I guess you could call them. Well, they call them pods. You got a lot of pods on the ranch. And each of them went by a different name and was for different types of kids. You had one that was only for sex offenders. You had one that was for aggressive kids that were on juvenile probation. You had one that was for foster kids who just had a bad history, and that's all. Then you had another one that was also for that. And places like this I really hated because this one, just like the ones before it, like Desero, they mix in foster kids with kids that are not from foster care at all, that are just on juvenile probation. Kids that have a history of robberies and assault with a deadly weapon, they get mixed in with children who are only there because they were in foster care and they've got a bad habit of running away. And this causes a lot of turmoil. And that place was honestly not that bad, just because the unit I was on was very chill. All the guys there were also from foster care, and they were just there to pass on by and do their time to get out. And I actually had a pretty decent time there. It wasn't that bad. The only thing I hated about it was in the middle of nowhere. So there was no visitation with family. There wasn't a whole lot of going out places. And that was really it. That was the last place I was at. You hear that?
I'm here. I was muted. I accidentally kept the mute button on and tried to talk, and apparently it's really good at keeping you muted. Um, but so okay, so after these two last places, where do you go next? Because San Antonio is also the place of your incident. So where are you? Because you were in your own apartment, I believe, right?
Yes,
So
I owned my own apartment at the time.
it's okay. So talk about from 17 to 19. Where were you working? How did you own your own apartment? Who were you living with?
So I owned my own apartment. When I first got out, I didn't own my own apartment. When you first get out of foster care, you can apply for something called supervised independent living, where basically somebody owns the apartment you live at and a bunch of others nearby, and a bunch of foster kids will live in those, and the state pays for it. And the lady who runs those apartments basically tells you you have to do this, this, and this to keep your apartment, or you lose it. And that's where I was at, and honestly, I fell in with the wrong crowd. I started hanging out with the wrong kids, and I got kicked out. And at the time, I'd been working a few jobs, and it was really just because I wasn't responsible. I'll be honest. I didn't like working. I liked working, but I didn't like the jobs I was working, and I wasn't responsible enough to really, figure out a way around that. So I said, "Oh, I'm gonna quit this job after a month, go get another one. Quit this job after 3 months, and go get another one." And I was mostly doing things like restaurant work until I got a job at Drake Check here in Houston. And I'll say that was actually my favorite out of all my job experiences. I loved it there. And the only reason I quit working there was because I had to move when I got kicked out of my apartment. And from there, I moved on to go live in, well, here in Houston still. I stayed in Houston. I moved around quite a bit, jumping from place to place, just living with whoever I knew at the time because I didn't really have another way. And so I got the state to help me out again with getting another apartment because at the time I didn't have enough money saved up. And I moved around quite a bit, just hanging out with people I knew, like my mom, my dad. Still hadn't learned my lesson there with my mother, so I was still hanging out with her at the time. And once I got my own apartment again in San Antonio, I was 19 by that time. And sorry, I hear a weird beeping next to me. Yeah, by the time I had my own apartment, I was really just in shambles. I didn't have a whole lot of my stuff still left with me. I had to lose a lot of it because of moving around. I wasn't able to afford paying for food and utilities at the same time and rent and all that, just because of the fact that where they moved me into was way too expensive. They put me in North San Antonio, up in the very wealthy part of the city, and so buying food there was almost impossible to do while paying rent and utilities. And at the time, I met two homeless people that I let move in with me because I'd become pretty cool with them over time. And they would actually help me out. It wasn't just me letting them move in. And, people might think that's stupid because I'm always struggling. But they actually helped out with it because they knew how to get through things like, oh, this restaurant throws out all their food at the end of the day, or oh, and this rich neighborhood over here, and these dumpsters, we found this, this, and this. So here's an Amazon Alexa, and here's this. And I really kept them around to help them out, but also because I knew I didn't want to be alone. It was filling a gap in me at the time. I was really struggling at that point. Was again the feeling of being moved around way too much and losing everything, like I had my entire life before that. And the depression didn't leave. It didn't just go away. It actually got worse as I stayed there. And that's when I got to the point where I got to.
Okay. So you didn't so in a way at the time you still were dealing with a support system and you had people somewhat in your corner throughout leading up to everything.
Yeah, I still had my dad in my corner at the time, but I should talk to him more, honestly. I just didn't really, when you're in that mindset, when you're really down deep in that darkness, you don't stop and think about the people you still have.
Well, now that we're gonna dive into those dark times. So we are gonna start talking about this. Now, you've had multiple suicide attempts before the main one. Talk about those and why this one was different.
So when I was 15, actually, at Guiding Light, I had a suicide attempt where I waited until everyone went outside for outside time, which is usually an hour, and I said I had to go to the bathroom, and I went in there and I hung myself with the shower curtain. And the only reason that I survived was because, ironically, one of the other kids had to go to the bathroom at that time, and he came in and pulled me down after I passed out and went unconscious. And there was times after that I had tried to overdose, and times before that I had tried to overdose when I was 14. I think the first time was when I was 14. I tried to overdose on, I think it was my Adderall that they had me on, or some sort of ADHD medication, Vyvanse, I think.
Now, talk a little bit about mindset to be, at that age because these first attempts you were at one of the homes, so you must have been between like 17 or 16, right?
Yeah.
So talk about
Well,
like
15. 15,
15.
yeah.
Talk a little bit about the mythology for setting up your own suicide. How does that go?
Really, I had this really just dark, dark sort of emptiness wash over my mind where I wasn't thinking about all the other things around me. Like, I wasn't thinking about school tomorrow at all. That kind of thought doesn't just occur to you whatsoever. All I was thinking about was just dying, peacefulness, going to sleep and not waking up again. And I had just wanted to not wake up every day in a home that was completely foreign, with people that were completely foreign, with rules that were completely foreign. I wanted to just stop waking up to that every day. And the mythology to it was just going in there, making sure that nobody was around, nobody would be around for a little while, and going in there and doing something that I thought was going to be successful.
Now, with that being said, um how do you decide what you're going to do to yourself?
At the time, that was all I had. There were no sharp objects. There were no. At the time, I wasn't on medication. There was no sharp objects or anything like that. And really, that was all I had thought of. That was all I could really think of.
Now, with that being said, were you scared? Were there factors involved with your attempts that, like, based off of what you thought death would be like? For instance, like when I almost injected myself with gasoline with a needle in my leg when I was younger, I wasn't necessarily thinking of how painful that would have been. Were there things when you set up, like when you overdosed, were you worried about like pain or feeling sick or any of that, or was it one of those things where you just wanted out, so whatever you could slam your hand on the buzzer to get out for that releases, it didn't matter?
It was just whichever way was the fastest out. I wasn't afraid of anything at the time because fear just wasn't on my mind. I was just too mentally upset all the time.
Now, with that being said, so you go into the bathroom so we'll talk about your first attempt. So you go into the bathroom. Where did you get the idea to hang yourself, and how did you figure out how to even make it work, essentially, like what to tie it to, how to tie it, how to make sure that it actually did work and you weren't just going to be hanging in the bathroom and somebody comes in and they're like, what are you doing? You're like, listen, this is
I just going
awkward.
for a swing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a swing. What do you think it is?
Well, I already knew how to tie knots because I've wanted to be voice stress a lot when I was younger. Never got the chance, but I've wanted to, so I've learned a lot about outdoor things like that. And so I knew how to tie a noose. And I had actually checked to make sure that I could hang onto the bar with my hands, like with one hand, and drop on my weight without it breaking or falling.
Now, remember how we've talked in private quite a bit about everything, and a lot of these questions that we're going to be going into, some of them we've already talked about, but would you say that there was anything particularly different about your thought process between your first suicide attempt and the one that was with the shotgun?
Yeah, honestly, it was the first suicide attempt. It was really, I don't want to wake up, but at the same time, it wasn't, I need to die. I desperately want to. The last one was like that. The last time, I was really just so fed up with things and so fed up with failure in life. And that's the fact that I failed a few times before to take my life that I felt like this time really had to happen. I was just done with everything. And I put more effort into it this time, which is why, why such a serious attempt that I shouldn't have come back from.
Now, would you say that the way you felt inside before your attempts was the same, or did you feel like this one was different, or like like we talked about, and I experienced it too when I thought about pushing the needle down on my leg and pushing the little plunger. It was a very cool, calm, very quiet, very, like, you could hear a pin drop, very euphoric, type of feeling. Was it the same way, or was it like, was there anger or rage behind it? When we're talking about the first one.
The first one, there was just a lot of I'm tired and I'm scared and I'm tired of being scared and I don't want to be scared anymore. Now, the last time was really just I'm upset, and I'm mostly upset at myself because even though I've been screwed over countless times, I haven't tried very hard to pick myself up. And so the second time, I was mostly upset with myself and extremely depressed at the same time.
So was it because you were upset with yourself because your internal image And this is if we talk about CBT, um, so we talk about skill reframing, and you've done that now, and it says nothing. This is a great example. Thank you for the gummy worm there, Logan. Nothing will ever get better, so what's the point? And nowadays, you and I would think of it as the reframing of this, which is things haven't been better yet, but I have the power to make the choice now before I didn't. You know what I mean? And talk a little bit about that, because I think it's important, because when you're in a place of helplessness and you're just very tired. And what I was tired was not so much like being in a group home, but I was heavily picked on as a child, in school, particularly, where kids would walk behind me and slap me up in the back of the head, and it really hurt, and it did not feel very good, and it made me very angry. And I also got like picked on. There, there was a little like wannabe gang that like tried to like beat my ass once in the locker room, but it was broken up by the PE teacher. You know what I mean? So mine was mainly, I was like you, just miserable. And when you look at suicide as a whole, there's a couple factors of like main topics, if you will. And like I said, I'm not a therapist, and nor do I try to be one or pretend to be one, because I'm just an average guy having conversations. But with that being said, there's a couple like themes when it comes to suicide, and mine and yours seem to be revolved around the displeasement of our environment and the way we think life is going to be or has been. you know would you say that's accurate?
I completely agree with that.
Elaborate on that. I'd love to hear more from your side on that.
A lot of times we don't think things are going to get better, and so we don't really try. But rewiring your mindset to show yourself that yeah, things haven't gotten better yet, and they're going to though. It makes you want to do more. It makes you get up and work harder, and things start to happen more. You start to notice things happening more, and return that boosts your mindset more. But when you lay around all day and you say that's never going to happen, this is never going to happen, you're setting yourself up for failure because you are actually wiring your mind to believe that. You're not just thinking it, you're believing it now.
100%. And then with the DBT, which is the dialectical um behavioral therapy, and this is, I don't like my situation, but I can accept it, and I can work towards something different. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like with you, where I planned my escape. Something had to change. I cannot accept this reality anymore, and I will not live in this reality anymore. I forget. There's a quote on Instagram. It's like, I refuse to live in the reality that I do not deserve. You know what I mean?
I agree.
All right. So now moving forward here, talk about the overdoses. So actually, I have one more question about the hanging situation. When you were in that situation, when you actually succeeded and was able to get the noose around your neck, and you're hanging there, when you're about to die, when I was about in my car accident, and I thought I was about to die, there's a lot of like emotion that goes in that. And one of my emotions was anger, not because I hate my life. It's just because, man, here I am, at a young age, and now I'm gone. You know what I mean? And so could have been my entire family. But when you're hanging there and you have that on for the brief minutes or seconds, or it could have felt maybe like hours to you, who knows? And you're going to tell us, what is the mindset go like as you believe that you're finally succeeding on dying?
I was upset at the way that the system had thrown me around all over the place and how I had no control over it. and I felt relief at the fact that I at least had control over this one thing. And but I mostly felt upset that I had not had any control over my life before that point.
Social Click has a quick question for you, not to get us off topic, but in a quick response, what helps you? What gives you strength?
Ah, what gives me strength on a daily basis nowadays? I get up and honestly I'm just out of it. I'm like half awake when I wake up. And that's usually the best time to try and do yourself there is a it's when you first wake up because your mind is like Play-Doh, it's real malleable. And I tell myself, here's what I'm going to do today later to enjoy myself. Here's what I'm going to do later today to be productive. I set out goals for myself. And that helps me feel like I have something to do in the day. I'm not just sitting around trapped in four walls, which is one of the worst feelings for me now.
Thank you for the question, Social Clicks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the overdose, right? So why change it up? Why not try to hang yourself again?
At the time, I was really young. At the time, I was still 14, and I wasn't really that bold yet. I wanted to die, but at the same time, I was really afraid of the idea of hanging myself. I'm like, I don't know, suffocating, that sounds kind of scary. But I believe that if I just took a few pills, I would fall asleep. That was my thought process.
And then with that, how do you choose your pills? Now, are these pills that you were prescribed? You just decide to take more than
Yeah.
you should?
Yeah, so I would save them up, just seek them, save them up, and then take them out once later in my room. And that's how I had done it.
Now, in reality, was it the same mindset that the hanging was? You were very mad at the system and everything else, or were there things that were added or attracted to that mindset?
It was really the same mindset, honestly.
So,
It was
so
just, I
nothing
want out.
changed.
Nothing really changed. Just, I want out, I want out. I'm tired of being scared.
Now, would you now when you say I'm tired of being scared, is that just because there's no stability and you don't know what's next, or are you living in fear because like you're either being targeted or hurt or
Both,
abused?
both, all of them.
Okay,
Yep.
what's the worst level of abuse that you've ever received?
Let's think. I had staff at my facilities, like I told you. I've had people like that just turn a blind eye or pay people to beat the crap out of me. There's never
Have you
been a time that, huh?
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, there's never been a time I can think of that a staff at one of the facilities has put their hands on me. There was the time at one of the foster homes I was in that foster parents put their hands on me. He picked me up by my shirt collar and slammed me up against the wall. And he basically told me, "You ever talk like that again in my house again, I'll do this to you." And set me back down after that, after putting his fist in my face and acting like it was gonna hit me. But I've never had one of the adults there actually, act violently on me personally.
Now, have you ever been sexually abused?
Not one in the foster system or out of it, no.
Okay. So with that being said, um, if you thought you'd take a couple pills, what happens next?
I thought I was just fall asleep and not wake up.
Well, in reality, did you start vomiting, convulsing, going to like a seizure? Like, how did your like attempted overdose like wind up to where you're no longer overdosing?
I just ended up having extremely violent stomach pains and throwing up a lot.
Okay. So it's self-sided. Like you didn't wind up with your stomach pumped in the ER for like 3 days or a self-induced coma or anything crazy.
And I never actually went and told them what had happened. It was just a failed attempt that nobody knew about.
Now, what did they do? Did they make you speak to like special services or something like
But they
that?
never knew. Okay, I never told them and they never found out.
Okay. And then this, so okay, so that was so that's attempt number two. We have attempt number 3, which is pills again.
That's
And what
all.
and then is that like a week later, a month later? What like type of time frame are in between all these attempts? Like, would you say 6
Well,
months, a year?
I just tried to attempt suicide with my pills twice, and that was
Mm,
both probably about 2 years apart.
2 years apart.
Yeah.
So
So when I
what?
was 16.
So what in the meantime is getting you through these points? Why in your reality is it not back to back? Like, I'm so
Well,
mad that this didn't happen. Tomorrow I'm going to do this to myself.
well, honestly, a lot of people ask me like, how did you stay so strong, like to keep moving afterward? It's not at all that I stay strong. I just slowly die like a turd in a sewer. That was all. I slowly die miserably, unhappy, and still wanting to die, but not really willing to go through the effort again. Just because the first attempt had failed and it was kind of scary failing like that.
I have a quick question coming in here from Lacey, my wife. Did you ever have anyone who positively impacted your life throughout your stays at the facilities? Someone like a therapist or another resident who you ever felt safe with?
Oh yeah, I actually had this friend named Josh. He was at my second to last placement. He's from California, and this guy is awesome. So he's 6'2" or 6'3". He's like 250 pounds. He knows karate, and he's from Thompson, California. So all the other kids there are definitely afraid of him, even the ones who have gang affiliations. And like this guy got so mad one time, he started slamming the door so hard that it actually crumpled the metal frame, and he splintered the wooden door off the frame. It fell off. So people there was just definitely afraid of this guy, and he was actually my best friend there. And we would stay up all night reading books, anime books, because he was heavily into anime and kept trying to get me into it. And that was actually my best friend there. He had a real positive impact on me because he came from a very bad place and had a very bad childhood. And everybody was scared of him because of this. But at the same time, he was a guy that really just wanted to do the right thing and also just handle his business as a man. Is what he's supposed to do. And there was one time he actually stood up for me. I had gotten jumped while I was there because one of the kids didn't like me. He was this little stuck up kid who was rich and, he thought he was there and everybody else. And he just really didn't like me from the moment I moved in. So he lied to somebody else there that was in the crit gang and ended up getting me jumped by him and two other people at the same time while I was in my room sitting on my bed. And later on, Josh told him he was in the room, and while they were there hanging out with all their other little his friends, he was like, just so you know, if Triston gets kicked off the unit, I'll rip every one of your fucking jaws and put you in the hospital. I'm not playing. You don't get him moved off the unit. And nobody ever talked to me again after that. They didn't even look at me funny. And Josh was the person who really just made a big impact on me because he was the guy that only really he was the guy that had all the reasons, all the excuses to be a bad person, but used all of his abilities to just do good.
So going back to the suicides here, and thanks for the question, Lacey. Um, it seems like these little gaps and periods they were enough to keep you around, but what would create a breaking point for you? Why would tomorrow be the attempt from 2 years apart? Like, why all of a sudden, like May 30th, that's the date that I'm gonna go. I bet it's kind of like somebody that's like they haven't had an alcoholic drink in like 5
Yeah,
years,
I
but
get what you mean.
tonight they decide to have that drink. You know what I mean? What creates
Yeah,
that?
it was usually be the consistency of how things are going. Like I'm just floating on by feeling like shit all the time, but then there comes a rough patch where things get really, really hard, and it doesn't seem to let up. And I just tell myself that's only gonna get harder, and that's really when I hit that breaking point each time.
Okay, Because it seems like, if like if I was in your situation, I it's funny that, well, not funny, but I don't want to say that word. It's interesting because your attempts were also delayed because it was a lot of work essentially for you too, to have to like come up with a place, find the time, find the perfect opportunity, and that also delayed it. So it was like there was like factors based on your personal laziness in a way, the way things are going, the way you see your life and what's happening to it, and the amount of control that you physically have over your situation. Would that be accurate?
Accurate.
That that Lacey says that's what I like to call divine intervention. All right, so let's talk about the big one that has led us to this point. So you're 19 years old, you're in an apartment. First of all, where did you get the gun? Whose gun is it?
So that's a question I get a lot. It was actually my gun, and I had got it at Academy for only $170. So that's the price of a life.
Okay, 100. You said it's $170, and that's the price of a life.
Yep, and I tell myself that a lot. That was the price of a life.
Now, with this being said, was the shotgun purchased with the intent that this is what it was actually going to be used for, or did you buy it, like, because I'm gonna, go hunting, and then one day, I'm starting to, think bad thoughts, and hey, look, there's a shotgun over there.
Yeah, originally I thought it just because I wanted to use it as a gun range and go hunting, things like that. But yeah, then the time came where I ended up using it for the wrong reason. And there was a point where I had considered, hey, can I give this to somebody else? But I didn't really have anybody that lived nearby that I could give it to, anybody that I knew. I didn't really know anybody. My dad was the only person I was talking to, and he was a whole 300 miles away.
Now, with this being said, um, how long did this thought process, I'm going to use a shotgun against myself, take place? Like, were you planning this? Was this like premeditated? Like, in 6 months, I'm going to do it on this date at this time? Were there any like pre measures that you took
You know,
before you were
uh,
going to go out?
not at all. Just one day I finally had enough.
No, but okay, so let's talk about that one day. What did that look like? You got up, and what happened that set off whatever, Because, like, for instance, let's say I get up and I read a text message I don't like. Automatically, I'm in a bad mood. And then somebody says something that maybe I misunderstand, and then that pisses me off. And then I stub my toe in the dresser, and then I'm really pissed off, and now I'm losing my shit. Like how does that amplify? Like are you
Yeah,
planning it the next day, or are you waking up and it's all like real fast building up to the point where you
well,
just
well, for weeks before, I've been having that really serious depression. Like I said, I thought about giving it to someone else before, but I didn't think that it was that serious. I thought I was, it was past. And I just started to feel more and more hopeless, honestly. I started thinking more and more about everything that I've lost and all the things I have to worry about, like this apartment. I'm not gonna have this forever. And I need to get into college. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I just started worrying about how I've literally got nothing right now, and at the same time, I don't have any of the things I need to get ready for my future either. And I just started becoming more and more stressed out. I started becoming more and more depressed, like having to just go to work every day, come back home to nothing and do nothing. And one day I just like had a really bad day. I just woke up not wanting to have to do anything. Oh, a few days before it has just been like that, not wanting to do anything, like even get out of bed. And the last day that I had like that, I got up, went out my day, like all the others, just, I don't want to do this, so I'm gonna go work, I'm gonna go home, sit down, play on my Xbox for a little bit. And once I left work, I was like, you know what? I'm just, I don't want to come back here tomorrow. I don't want to come back here tomorrow. I don't even want to, I don't want to do anything tomorrow. And I go to the store, I get a beer, and I don't like talking about this because people like to think that that contributes to it, but I had one beer that night. I go to the store, I get a beer, and I'm in my apartment after I finish it, I was just like thinking about how I'm going to go through with it, honestly. And I live on a second story apartment, but I'm not that high up. I work at a hotel, and I'm thinking, well, I might not have access to the rooftop, and I don't want to try to open that door and set up on the lawn. And I was like, I have a gun, and that's the quickest, most convenient way, and that's the most surefire way. This time I'll know for sure that I'm not going to come back from it. And apparently I was wrong. Well, it's
Hey,
funny story.
Tristan, before we get into all this, can I get you to change your location because it is now very dark out and you are fading into the blackness literally. So I want to be able to see you and be able to connect with your face when we talk about the most serious part of this conversation and give you that notice because Tristan, like I said, he is fully blind, so he would not be able to notice that it is now dark out. So while he does that, I'm going to just switch to me. Tristan, take your time, no rush at all. I'll
Okay.
give you a couple minutes to
I
do your thing.
I can't go inside, so but I might be able to find a better spot out here.
Yeah, if you can find like a light source or something to stand behind because it is very, very dark on that screen. Well, he does that here, and I can see when you get a better light. So here, I'll give you a couple minutes here. Bam. Um, we are going to roll another joint real quick. Well, I had one, and then I let it go out, and I'm like, well, I could relight it, but then I'm like, I don't know. So I'm just like, maybe I'll just roll another one. Let's see here. Is this the 1 grammer? It is. So one thing I love about having a lot of weed is it's just like, do I finish it or do I roll a new one?
Hey, keep talking, Stefan. I'm finding my phone by your voice.
What's that?
Keep talking. I'm using your voice to find my phone.
Oh yeah, I'm over here, brother. I'm over here.
Alright.
Did you find me?
Yeah, just like
Hell yeah.
I hope this is better.
Yeah, if you keep walking straight, there is a light in front of you.
There's a what?
There's like a light in front of you. It looks bright. Keep going forward.
Okay.
Yeah,
This way?
there's yeah, but then you'd have to leave the yard. Is there a light like on the house or near the house?
Unfortunately not. It went out.
It went out.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to set up in your room?
I can't. Unfortunately, I can't right now. My dad's doing work on the computer.
Okay. Well, this looks suitable. So there's a chair behind you. So maybe you want to sit down in that chair right there. Yeah.
Oh, let me look for the one I have.
Yeah. And this is a little bit brighter so I can see you. I just don't want you to be lost in the darkness. And it's like, where'd Tristan go? Oh, he's still there. And we're looking for eyes and a smile. Yep, there's chair. Yep, perfect.
All right, now.
Thank you guys that are tuning in. And we got some more questions for you, Triston, when you get set up. So take your time, brother. No rush at all.
I'm trying to find a chair I have. The folding one. All right, Nathan, can you help me out here?
Yes, sir. What do you need?
I'm trying to find that lawn chair I was sitting in. I can't sit in one of these regular ones for too long.
Okay. How can I help you?
There's a lawn chair that I was sitting in. Can you point me in the right direction?
Okay, yeah. So you're gonna turn around because you're face the street right there. I'm trying to see. Your screen is very dark, so that's one of the downfalls. I believe. Can you point me up?
1 second. It's on the sidewalk.
I can hear an airplane.
Yeah.
So we know that you're outside. All right. So yeah, you're pointed towards the fence right now, and now you're walking towards the front gate again.
Okay.
And you're coming up here on the little table area.
Okay, so I'm on my chair.
All right, cool.
So where did I take it?
Go to your left and go forward.
All right.
And put it and line up right against the gate, because there's a light source, like a street lamp, that should stay constant enough to bring you enough illumination. So go all the way to where you can see or feel the gate.
All right.
And the gate's right in front of you. Ba-ba-da-bum. Good weed.
Oh my god, I'm looking for my chair now.
You said what?
I'm looking for my chair. Again.
We need to get like a little thing you put on the chair, and it beeps when you're close to it, and you're like, oh, there's my chair.
All right, Nathan, where you at?
All right, so turn around, come to your right, come backwards. There you go. You should be right next to me here. I am inches away. I am standing. Yep, you just touched it, the chair, with either your stick or your hand, because the chair vibrated and moved a little bit. So you know what? I want to drive to Texas right now and install a street light that's a lot closer to you, so we can shed some light on you, literally and figuratively. But you're doing good, Triston. You're doing good. Yeah, you're definitely in the darkness, unfortunately.
Crap, man. Well, I'm gonna get rid of the tripod and do this standing up.
Everybody says you're doing a great job. Take your time. I'm right here, so if you dropped your phone or put it down.
Yeah, just set it down for a second.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. As long as people can really hear you, that's good enough. I didn't realize how dark it would get. That's really dark in Texas. See, here we got we live in a townhouse community, so there's street lights everywhere. So
Well, this is the floor part of Houston, so the lighting isn't great.
you're funny.
No, that's really the reason why.
That's hilarious. Oh, right there, right there. You're doing good. I can see you. So
All right.
if you can sit down right there and have the camera face you, it'll be perfect. Here, I'll give you some instructions here. Let me.
All right.
Perfect. And what I'll do is I'm just going to keep it on you to make it easier for people to be able to see you here. Take that off. All right. Perfect. Now we're all set up. It's a little bit dark, but I can see you in the outline of you, and that's perfect. That's actually good right there. Yep, just like that. That'll be perfect. You're in the moonlight. Now move it just a little bit to, yep, nope, right there. A little bit back. Perfect. All right. We can make that work. Now, the only other suggestion I have, Triston, is if possible, could you turn yourself 360 degrees so you're facing the street? Then that way the light would hit your face instead of the side of your face, and you'll illuminate. Don't worry about it. You know what? Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. We're going to continue. All right. So, you ready?
All right.
All right. So, as we were talking about with the shotgun and everything, so it was yours. You had bought it to do other stuff with it, and then it was just that one day.
Yes.
So you went and you had one beer, and so it wasn't like an alcohol-induced rage where you're totally belligerent. So that means when you did your attempt, you were in a very conscious and aware state of mind.
Yes.
Just like all of your other attempts, because you were in a group home. So unlike somebody that maybe is like in like a drug infused rage, and then just offs themselves. How does that go? How does that like work? Like, how do you become so confident that one, you actually going to do it, because you've actually had four, up to this point 3 attempts where you actually went through it with it. There's a lot of people like me who I got all the things necessary, but I didn't go through with it. You know what I mean? So the actual attempt side is like it was attempted, but not in physicality, like it would be like if you had cut yourself or shot yourself or whatever. So talk a little bit about that. Like, so you're sitting on your bed, or where were you first of all in the apartment?
I was laying on the floor in the living room.
Okay, so why first of all, why did you choose whatever room you were in to be that room?
Because the idea of dying in my bedroom just felt sad and depressing and lonely. I don't know. I didn't want to die alone in my bedroom like that.
Now,
Something about that bothered me.
now, did you position yourself any particular way? Did you set up anything for people to see? Where, like, what was your mentality for aftercare or afterthought?
No, so I had laid on the floor, not in the middle of the living room, but next to the dining room table actually. And I hadn't positioned myself in any specific sort of way for any reason, or in that spot for any reason. I just chose that spot and laid down there. And I didn't have any thoughts at all about after because I didn't think there was going to be an after.
Now, are you a religious person?
Yes, I believe in God.
So, what did you believe would happen to you once you pulled that trigger in a religious standpoint?
I don't believe in a heaven and hell, right? I believe in God, and I'm not denying the Christian Bible. I don't want any controversy or conflict over this in any way. But I had just believed that I would go into either darkness after this, or a place that was a little bit better. I didn't think that I was in some kind of learning plane for all of eternity or anything like that.
Now, yeah, and I'm not trying to make this like a religious conversation, but did you feel like you like like some people would say, and this could be suggested that people who try to take their life could go to hell, right? Did you? And we you talked a little bit about this when you woke up. You actually thought you were in hell, and
Yes.
we'll dive into that briefly. But before that thought period and before that time, what was your thoughts about how you saw your religion and what you were about to do to yourself?
I knew that it was wrong, and even if there isn't a hell and people don't go to hell for killing themselves, I knew that it was wrong, and I believed that it was wrong in the eyes of God. But at the same time, I thought to myself that, a God who cares about you as much as the Bible says will not punish you for hurting so much that you just end your suffering.
Okay. Now, with that being said, and this is one of Lacey's questions, and Crystal, we'll get to your question here. Did you, at the time you're laying there, so first of all, you're laying on your stomach, your side, your back. How did you position yourself with the gun?
I was laying on my side, curled up in a ball.
With the like curled up like the ball with the gun between your body, pointing towards your mouth or in your
Yeah,
mouth.
something like that, yeah.
Okay. So at this point, how long do you spend in that position with the actual firearm before you pull the trigger? Like, what type of time period are we talking about? Minutes,
I would say,
seconds?
I would say a few minutes. I would say just a few minutes. Enough time to really think about it, contemplate it, and then enough time to actually pray to God and, say my last words.
Now, besides just having the beer, did you do anything special for yourself? Sometimes like if you were say on death row, there you have a specialized dinner, or something like that where you would do something one last time. Was there anything like that before this moment?
No, that year was really what that was. Just one last year. I just want to have one last year.
What type of beer was it?
I can't remember.
Was it a Bud Light?
It was whatever was cheapest, man. I was buying horse shits at the time.
Right. It was like I got to figure out which one it would like which one was worth dying for. You know what I mean? Like, was it the
Yeah.
Bud Light? Was it Corona? Like a Heineken? Like, which one do you thought was like the absolute best? That's my dark sense of humor kicking in. But to get back on topic, with that being said, so did you have like when you chose the weapon and then chose how you were going to do it, did you choose the special ammunition for this, like I'm going to buy this particular ammunition, or did you just go with what you had?
I went with what I had because when I moved to San Antonio, that was the last time I had been able, or before I moved to San Antonio, was the last time I was able to get to a place where I could buy ammunition. After that, I was too far away from anything where I lived at the time, and I had to walk everywhere. But at the time, I just loaded it with what I had, which was a third shot.
Now, when you're curled up in the ball and you're going through this process, what does time feel like? Like for instance, like have you ever done psychedelics?
No,
Okay. Well, have you well you smoked, right? What
yeah.
Crystal actually asked you, I'm curious to know if you're able to use medical marijuana.
Well, right now I don't. I haven't qualified for it yet. I haven't applied for it yet either because I don't know how. But I would like to very much. It would help me out a lot, I think.
Oh, I think it would help you out too. Now, with that being said, back to my question is, you know, um, just being there with the firearm, knowing that you're about to do this to yourself. You've lived in life out of fear, right? You've always been scared, and being scared is a reason why you wanted to take yourself out. were you scared of doing this? Like, were you like before it even
Not at all.
happened? You weren't. So there was. So you didn't feel any indifference about get like not waking up or anything. There was just no feeling
No
attached to that.
fear. That's
Is
usually what I wanted at the time.
now would you say that's due to like the numbness that you were feeling because of the situation and being like desensitized and kind of isolated and really just fending for yourself for so long, or
I
where does
think
that
so.
come in?
No, I think so. I think that would actually be a large contribution to that.
It's just funny because it well, not funny, I always say that, but it's like you're so afraid and you're afraid, but then you're not afraid to be what most people would be afraid of, which is dying. You know what I mean? And it's like the fear has built so much confidence in you wanting to do this and seeing that this was the only option. Now, had you like heard of other people committing suicide with guns before? Did you know anybody that's ever committed suicide before or during or after, suicide, like with what you've been dealing with?
Nothing I can think of.
So no, you don't know anybody that actually hung themselves or shot themselves or anything like that.
Oh, suicide at all. Let me think. No, nothing I can think of. There, while I was in foster care, actually, yes, my bad. Um, I almost forgotten, but a friend who was very close to me, who went by the name Jesse, he had actually slit his wrist. He had locked himself in the bathroom after stealing something out of one of the staff's purse and slit his wrist. And this was one of my closest friends. And a few days before he did it, he gave me his electric guitar, and I tried to tell him no. I was like, no, you don't want. He wants to trade me for my acoustic one that came off of Amazon for only $10. I was like, no, it's not worth it. Don't do it. And he made it seem like he really just wanted to give me his guitar, so I took it. And a few days later, it was when he did what he did. I think that was really planned out. That was just like going away present. And that was someone who was very important to me. And I held on to that guitar for years until it got stolen out of my last apartment when I shot myself.
When you study suicide, which I've only done loosely, like I said, I am not an expert in any way, but I do love learning about psychology and everything. um it's when people, that's one of the signs of somebody that might or could possibly suggestively be suicidal, is the giving away personal materials, especially things that are dear possessions to you, and placing them, because either like you said, it's like either a going away gift, if you were like, if you'd call it that, or a way to offset their belongings. And with you, did you do anything like that? Did you recreate that? Where did you reach out to anybody the day before? Did you like have any special text messages with
Yeah.
anybody?
I had texted my dad a few days before, just because I knew that it was coming sort of subconsciously. And I told him I love you, Dad. I want you to know that. And he seemed kind of worried, but he didn't ask if he thought everything was alright. And he was like, I love you too, son. And also a few days before, or I think 2 days before, I had actually gone to go visit my mom and hang out with her in person, walking around the city, because at the time, that's something I knew I was never going to repair my relationship with her, and at the time, I had still been trying, but I told myself I just wanted to at least visit her one last time to make an effort.
Now we're laying on the ground, curled up with the gun. Why putting it in your mouth versus under the chin or whatever?
Well, because of the gun that I had, it was actually too large for that. I I had a 12 gauge, but it had a 3 foot carbon steel barrel, a long barrel, and so it wouldn't have been possible that way. I had to.
Now, during Lacey, quick question coming in here. Um, I'm really curious to know how your dad felt after all this happened. What was his initial reaction? And then we'll go into a longer conversation about that after the gun goes off.
Honestly, he was extremely upset with me for what I did.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna come back to that. So we're laying on the ground, and how did we operate the gun?
I had pulled the trigger with my finger. People ask me sometimes if I use my feet or my hands. I use my finger.
Now, so you're laid down, and obviously you can't see me right now, but describe your position. You're on your side. Are you in like you're in like a curled up position, so kind of knees bent, kind of
Yeah,
laying on the ground like in a cuddle position, if you would,
yeah.
right? Um, any like right before the trigger goes off and you pull it, what is the last split second thing that you remember thinking about? Like if you could name like one thing, what is it
God
right
forgive
before?
me.
Huh?
God forgive me.
God forgive you.
Yeah.
Now, right before you pulled the trigger, you talk to God. Talk to us about what you actually said to him before the gun goes off.
I asked him to forgive me, but this way I can't do this anymore. And please look after my family. I want them to be in good health, and I wanted them to understand that it wasn't them, it was me. I was sick, and help them move on basically.
Now, you said that you were sick and you referred yourself because, in the other context,
Depression, yeah.
yeah, you've been called damaged your whole life. Why would you compare the mind of somebody who's either going to commit suicide or is attempted to commit suicide sick, and define that context for us?
Because a sickness is something that settles over you uncontrollably, and it interrupts your ability to do things. And depression is described by that perfectly. It settles over you, and you don't always realize it, so you don't always have power over it. And even when you do realize it, you don't always have power over it. And it affects your ability to live your day-to-day life. It affects your ability to do things. And it's a lot like a sickness. You have to treat it like one in order to get rid of it.
All right. So, gun goes off, big bang. Everything goes what?
Everything goes black. And I did not have any conscious thought until 3 months later. I was in the hospital. Well, 2 months later, actually, too. I was in the hospital. They resuscitated me in the ambulance. I was brought back in the ambulance, and at the hospital, I had no conscious thought. I wasn't able to speak or think at all. And I actually went a week without eating because they could not feed me my mouth at all with how my taste was at the time. I had to have the tube put in my stomach, but they couldn't do that without my consent supposedly, and I wasn't able to get it. And it wasn't until my family showed up and gave consent for them that I was finally able to receive food after a week. And they put me in a drug-induced coma because during that time I had broken through my restraints 3 times, and each time they laid down more restraints, but I kept breaking out of them. I was just very pissed off about being locked down in bed and being blind and not understanding anything, I guess.
Now,
And
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I'm sorry, that was actually it. You go ahead.
No, I want you to continue.
No, I actually don't know what I was going to say after that.
Okay. So, first thing happens when and what is it like when you first hear your first sound or vibration or anything? What is the first thing that brings you back? And any time, I've talked to addicts who have died and come back to life, who have seen themselves on an operational table while the doctors are doing things, and then being shot back into their body in like a deep breath of air, all of a sudden they can feel pain and the ER noises and the doctors and
Yeah.
everything. Is there
Yeah.
anything like that for you?
For me, I had a moment right before I woke up out of my coma, and I'm not really sure if this happened while I was in the coma or if it happened while I was in the ambulance dead. Because when you're in the coma, time moves differently. But it felt like it was right before the very second that I woke up. I had a moment where I actually spoke to God. It felt like, and I get emotional. I start crying talking about it sometimes. So if I get there, I'll start talking about it. But I had a moment where I spoke with him, and basically he told me, "You're not gonna die. Like you're not done. I'm not gonna let you die." And I was so upset and pissed off. I was shouting and yelling. I was like, hasn't I done enough? Hasn't you done enough? Let me rest, basically, is what I was trying to tell him. I don't want to do this anymore. And he's like, you're not finished yet, you still got things to do. I don't remember exactly the words that were exchanged, but it was always along the lines of that. And when I woke up, it was just, I had this weird moment where that was the only thing on my mind for at least a few hours. And I started wondering where I was. I was like, where am I, you know? What is this freaking place? I thought I was still dead and in purgatory. I thought I died. You know, this is hell basically. This is some kind of darkness. You know, what I just experienced a minute ago was just some sort of dream or something. I don't know. I was really confused. I didn't know what to think. But I had thought that I was honestly in hell at first when I woke up out of my coma in the hospital because there's no vision anymore, couldn't see. There's no sounds going on except for the murmurs of things going on in the hallway which I could barely hear. And I was just it felt like when am I gonna leave this darkness? Why can't I move? I was really confused. I thought I was in hell for that reason, and the first sound I heard was when people finally came and staff finally came into my room and explained to me what was going on. In case you don't remember, this is what happened. We don't know if you shot yourself or someone else did. And we think that you might use lines that we don't know, so if you can't see, that's why. And I was like, yeah, I'm blind. And they told me, it's a miracle that you're alive right now. You shouldn't be here. And I was just like, oh, yeah, whatever. And just was just left there to sit thinking for months actually, what the hell, why am I still here? I don't want to do this.
Now I want to back you up a little bit. You had a conversation with essentially a higher power
Yeah,
in that time,
yeah.
and okay. So you got to walk us through this.
Yeah.
How does it work? Like describe it to us. Like all of a sudden you're in blackness, I guess, right? And then you start to see people or a person, or was it
It was
just a
like a,
voice, or what was that?
it was like seeing a star out in the darkness, like one bright star, and as if the star was talking to me, like it's right next to me, not far away. And really, what I remember thinking after that is, he basically was teaching me that it's not up to me, no matter what. It's really not up to me. And that was the most frustrating thing about it while I was having that conversation, is being told it wasn't up to me. That really upset me.
Well, especially when it's like, well, yeah, because I'm the one that tried to commit suicide, so it technically was up to me, and you are preventing this from happening. You know, so this higher power, what type of tone of voice is it? Is it a male, female? Is it spiritual, where it's no denomination? Like, talk about the voice
I,
itself.
I honestly can't remember too much in detail like that, but I do remember that it wasn't like a female voice.
Was it Morgan Freeman? I've always wondered if
That
it's really his voice at the end.
would be cool. I'll definitely remember
Like a
that.
little Bruce Almighty moment for you, like going in. So
Yeah.
so the conversation you're talking to, how do you want to define that person, or being? What would you define that as?
It's just a
Like if
higher
we
power.
okay,
Just a
so
higher power. Someone that really just knows all and controls all and tells you what you're going to do, not what you want to do.
so go through his specific words again that he said to you, or
I was in my
paraphrase.
desk. I was in my desk.
Yeah,
Paraphrase.
yeah.
I was basically he was basically telling me that you're not done yet and you're going to live. And when I told him I don't want to live anymore and I'm done, I refused. Like, I, you can't make me, kind of, because like you're not done yet. You know, this isn't your choice. You still got things to do. Basically, he told me I had unfinished business, and that is the part that really ticks me off because I had never had a fucking life before that. And that's the part that ticks me off the most. I had never had anything, no business at all. And he told me that, and I was like, well, I don't know what it is, but okay, then. I looked up, and it wasn't until months later I started trying to figure out what that meant. And it wasn't until months after that I started speaking to people. Actually, like a year after that, I started doing motivational speaking online. And it wasn't until months after that that I began to realize that this might actually be what he was talking about.
Okay. So after that, after that conversation, what happens next in the thing? Is this is when you're starting to wake up out of the
Right when I
coma?
looked up, like, the conversation ended the very second I looked up.
So okay, so 2 months goes by that you're in a coma, but
Uh-huh.
in time and space, how does that feel from the day that the gun went off to when you wake up? Does it feel like it was instantly, like you had the conversation and then you're right in the hospital bed, or did
Yeah.
or was there darkness and you were in darkness for a while and then you just saw this random like star that started talking to you? Like how does that
No,
work?
throughout the whole coma, I didn't have any sort of dreams or visions or anything. There was no activity going on until what seemed like the very end of it.
Say that
For
one
that
more time.
one,
I'm so sorry.
there was throughout the whole coma, there was no activity like that except towards the very end when I had that conversation, or what felt like the very end, because like we said, time moves differently.
Now, did it feel like 2 months of time? Like, you know what 2 months of time would feel
No,
like? That's very long.
I feel like during the whole thing, I wasn't really aware at all of anything around me or space at all. Like, it was like time warp pretty much until I had that conversation. Because when nothing's happening, there's nothing for you to build a standard of time off of, you know? So there's no way to actually tell if it's in a year or 3 seconds. So until I actually had that conversation, it felt like I was in the coma for only a few minutes, basically, while I was having that conversation.
It's very interesting because I've had so many conversations with people that have been in comas and they say the almost the exact same thing, that time is warped. And that's why I asked you if you ever done psychedelics, because if you do psychedelics like mushroom or acid, which I've done a lot of in the past, and I do microdosing because in Washington, D.C., you can get mushrooms. And they're legalized or decriminalized, which is really awesome. And they play a big role into mental health. And with that being said, you lose sense of time. So you could be in a setting, like to give you an example, you could be at like a rave or an outdoor festival, and let's say I'm rolling a joint, right? And we're talking in a circle. Well, I could be, so in the entranced with what's going on. I would look up sometimes and I'd be like, who the fuck are you guys? Where are all the people that I was talking to? Like I was just rolling a joint, not knowing that it actually 30, maybe 40 minutes had gone by. But because of the way the psychedelic works, it changes your perceived time and value, which almost it's like the coma does, which is very interesting because it all goes on a higher psychological level. But back to our conversation, we're in the hospital bed. I wake up. What happens? When does pain set in? When does understanding set in? Because we're gonna go down a whole laundry list of of reconstruction and also rehabilitation and relearning. So dive into that just a little bit. So you wake up and you can see, or I guess you're blind, right?
Yeah,
So
that's it.
you never saw again. So the last time you ever saw was literally
When
the
I close
barrel of
my
that
eyes.
gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that room. Okay. So talk about pain, understanding. How do we go from here? We just opened our eyes.
Alright, so I actually wasn't in any physical pain when I first looked up to was there or not. And I believe that might be partially because of such heavy trauma to my brain, but also because the heaviest painkillers you can name off, and they had me on, I think, 8 of them at once. They had me on morphine, Zolotid, Sentinel, oxycodone, all through an IV. And so once I woke up, I really actually wasn't in any physical pain. It's just a lot of mental anguish. And really the challenge from there was, what the hell, where am I? Like, what's up with me? Where do I go from here, dude? Like, I couldn't even get out of bed to go jump off the roof if I wanted to. At the time, I just felt lost, really. Lost. Sorry. Lost.
Well, I would definitely feel like, well, yeah, you definitely can't see and everything is black. I would definitely feel lost too. Now, how does the understanding go that your life is now permanently changed and that you do have to do this? I did ask the question to you privately, which I'm asking
Yeah.
again here now is, what is it like knowing, and you've already kind of briefly talked about this tonight, what is it like knowing that you couldn't even commit suicide?
That right there was frustrating because that was something that was foolproof in my mind, and it apparently hadn't been. And I felt like things were just going to be worse from now on a million times because of how my body is now, my eyesight, and all the other things. I've lost everything I had, and I didn't really have any understanding of acceptance. I didn't have any understanding at all for that reason. Actually, I just still hated being around.
Now, as you're going on, you're in the hospital bed, you're knowing that you're going to live, because you're alive. um you're obviously permanently disfigured, in from your incident. They also took different parts of your body and used them in the reconstruction surgery. Talk a little bit about rehabilitation in a state like that. What is that like, and what is the road to recovery like? Because you're still on it, obviously, because you have more surgeries and other things that need to be attended to. But in that sense, what are doctors saying? What are your parents saying about everything that's going on? Like, from the first time that your parents saw your face, they've seen your face from a baby, and they know who Triston was before, but now Triston obviously looks different. Talk about that reaction from people and just everything going forward.
Well, I had honestly at the hospital they hadn't told me a whole lot about recovery or how I would recover. Their main priority was to stabilize me. That was it. And there wasn't really much thought that they put into my quality of life afterward. It was just we gotta keep them alive. That's it. And my family, they honestly were told that they were told while I was still in a coma that when I came back around, I was not to be able to talk or anything. I was being vegetable for the rest of my life. So when I did come back around and I was able to have cognitive function, they were very surprised about it. And at the same time, we're just worried about, well, how's he going to, live with all these different, difficulties like being blind now and having disfigurement.
Lacey says she's very disappointed that the hospital didn't prepare you for recovery, which is honestly amazing that it would work like that. But I guess in the machine of corporate America, the idea is to stabilize you and get you the hell out of there, not actually, fund and help somebody really truly rehabilitate. And I think that's, you see a lack of that in different systems and institutions like the prison system, obviously the foster care system. It's very interesting. Now, when the gun went off, going back real quick, who found you? Because I forgot to ask you that. How
I
did you
actually
get
don't
to the
know.
hospital?
That's the thing, actually. I really don't know. They told me next things about his family. I was bunch of different people, but I really don't know. The thing is, because I was in an apartment, and this wasn't the kind of apartments where you got one building, one floor here, and another. It was like they're all lined up to each other. So if you're in the middle, you've got five rooms on either side of you that are also apartments. And it was just sort of so there's at least 20 people living right next to me that could have heard it.
So okay, but did you had planned it to make sure nobody was coming home at that time?
Yeah.
Okay, so going forward, let's talk a little bit about. So Lacey says it could have been a complete stranger that sounded the alarm that you needed help, which I'm very glad that they did.
Yeah.
Obviously somebody broke through the door. They probably heard the gunshot because I mean a 12 gauge going to it. Now with that, your face, obviously it is disformed, and it has a certain look to it. What is the perceived value that you get from being in public? Obviously you've never seen your face and you don't know what it looks like,
No, I
but
know it looks like I feel. I felt it
by
for too
feel,
long.
you said, yeah, when we talked, you said I felt it enough times to kind of know what it looks like. um how does that go forward? Are there more surgeries that are going on right now? Like, what is their plan for you, or are you still trying to develop a plan with a doctor?
I'm still trying to develop a plan with the doctor. The issue is that I moved out of San Antonio, where they were originally treating me at, to come live with my dad here in Houston, and my surgery got completely cut off for that reason.
Now, were you at Houston? Because I believe I could be wrong, but Houston has a trauma like three or trauma whatever it is center, where it's like a specialized unit that designed for like situations like that. Is that why you were moved there, or um
Well, actually, at the time I had a caregiver that I just didn't get along well with. It was my mother. I guess I'll just tell you. At the time I had my mother as my caregiver again, and this time she had convinced me that she had really turned her life around and gotten clean and was going to be better for me. And it became a very abusive situation very fast.
now, okay, so she came back in the picture after during your recovery.
Yes, well, during my recovery.
And so she at the time was trying to convince you that she had turned her life around, but obviously that wasn't true. Now, talk a little bit about having to learn everything over again. That's a pretty bold statement. And when you think about everything, I mean, having to use the bathroom, having to walk, having to form sentences and talk again. What is that like? And what's the level of frustration and like gratitude or acknowledgement that things are actually getting better?
Talking was very frustrating, and walking too. I had to relearn walking and talking. I had to relearn walking because when you first lose your eyesight, it messes up your equilibrium so bad that even if you have a walker right in front of you, you can't walk straight. You'll trip over your own ankles all the time because your legs are no longer coordinated with each other. And that was also because of the heavy damage to my brain. So I had to also relearn talking because of the trach in my neck makes that very difficult. They told me it actually should have made it impossible. And the damage to my face also makes it very difficult. And they're telling me that should have made it impossible too. But at the time, I had to communicate my needs. I wasn't being taken care of properly all the time at the hospital. And there was times where I would go 2 or 3 days without really getting a whole lot done for me. They don't really check on me except once a day. And I had to learn how to talk basically to get what I needed. But at the time, that was really the only reason for it. I didn't care much to communicate with other people because I was trying to stay boxed in.
Okay. So it's still, it's weird because it seems like in a way you're still dealing with isolation and people not necessarily trying to jump forth, your effort in trying to do this. And you're still, like Lacey said right here, you're still really advocating for yourself. And Crystal says you can talk though, and you also are proving them wrong. They told you they'd be a vegetable. They told you that you wouldn't be able to talk again, and you're breaking all these barriers. How does that formulate the forward mindset where we're going to be talking soon in a couple of minutes about your motivation and the wisdom behind yourself being able to prove these people wrong?
Hey, Stefan, so we actually wrap it up a little bit. I actually gotta go eat pretty soon,
Oh, well,
and
we
it's
can
getting
we
pretty
can
cold out here.
okay. Well, I don't want to keep you cold out there. We can definitely wrap it up if you need to go in.
I
No
don't want to
wor-
end it right now. No, I don't want to end it right on the spot, though. We can let's just talk about 2 more topics if you like.
Okay. How about, do you want to I'll put a timer. How many minutes do you think you'll be comfortable outside? I don't want you to freeze.
Let's go with another 5.
Another 5 minutes?
All right, another 5.
All right, let's do another 5 here. Thank you for letting me know, Tristan.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you, Stefan.
let's see here. I will make sure we got 5 minutes on the clock here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the most important thing. And that's for everybody to know the future of where you're going. And that's motivational speaking. And
Oh,
that's
nice.
something that I'm super passionate about myself because I actually speak in front of the college here in Stafford. Well, it's actually Spotsylvania. And I'm also speaking in other engagements. I'm speaking at the American Autoflower Cup. I've spoken at very different things. I want to talk a little bit about mindset. You have a lot of challenges, right? You have your face of what's going on. For a long time, which people don't know, we didn't really discuss, is your body was actually rejecting bone and lead that was still stuck in your face that would come out through your gum line that you would spit out, which is
Oh
pretty
yeah.
gnarly.
To the
So
top of my mouth, the whole roof of it.
exactly. So let's talk about where Tristan is going in the future. First of all, to you, what is your mythology on mindset and empowerment going forward? And what have you discovered through this journey?
I just go through this journey, and the mindset and empowerment that I picked up is that you really, really can do anything as long as you push yourself hard enough. Because I did not think that I was going to be here today, and the fact that I still am, and walking and talking and reaching thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people on Instagram and TikTok is amazing. The fact that I'm able to empower other people, it shows me that when you don't give up and you really just push your hardest, you eventually achieve your goals.
No, I totally agree. Also, how do you handle the emotional weight for advocating for others while carrying your own past? Thanks, sir.
That can be hard sometimes. I deal with a lot of talking to people that are going through really hard times and they even might be on the edge of happiness and they want to talk to me about it and hopefully have me talking down with it. And that can be very overwhelming at times because it feels like a responsibility. It feels like you have a responsibility to this person and that you're selling them if something were to happen. And that can be very stressful at times, but it's something that also brings me a lot of joy because I know that I'm doing a lot of good for other people, And the fact that they're coming to me means that they don't feel like they have other people to go to.
100%. What advice would you give to a foster kid about to be aged out?
Don't do drugs and stay in school. No, on a serious note, for real.
Cliche,
Uh,
motherfucker.
on a serious note, for real. Don't let your past define you, because we're always going to remember all those hard things that we went through, all those hardships, and those things are going to keep coming back up. It's not going to stop. You're going to remember that always throughout your life. Maybe not every day, maybe it'll come up once a week, but you're always going to remember the past. You can't just shove it down. That causes more issues. You gotta deal with it in a good light. Come to terms with it.
My last question for you is more of a personal question, and it's the question of this. Even though you can't see, you can still use a cell phone because your cell phone will read out everything that you're saying. There are
So let me turn
still
my
people
headphones off.
there are still people that have negative things to say about you and the way you look, and they judge or confuse your situation with either you being shot or you shooting yourself, and either can have negative things or sometimes really nasty things to say about you. How do you balance the ability to combat that, and then how do you educate other people in that situation to push past that, because you're still left with the marks of your decision, and at the end of the day you're a defining factor that proves that you are not your past and that you are somebody totally different today, but those scars and reflections are once a mark of your decision. And what is your answer to those people that don't understand you and confuse you to the person that you truly are?
My answer to those people. So the way I balance it out, all the hateful comments I get, I know that for every one of those, I've got like 1,000 that are positive, and that 1% of hatefulness is just people that are hurting inside, and they're gonna lash out at somebody else, and they see somebody who not only is suffering like them, but it turns it into something positive somehow, and that upsets them. And I try to look at it like, hey, these people just need a little help. And I told them, hey, look, I try to go, hey, look, you can do it too. Like, there's no reason to hate me. You can do it too. Or if you're upset with me because you got something bad going on in your life, then you need to work on it. That has nothing to do with me. I'll tell people that are being hateful things like that. I never respond with anything smart or disrespectful.
No, that's a great answer. And I love your ability to understand that because they are hurting, and they're just looking to lash out. And you play such a pivotal role, and you're going to do so well as a motivational speaker. Your honesty and your way to communicate and tell the story and have so much confidence behind it really showed tonight. And I'm so honored and thankful to have you on. The 5 minutes is up, so I'm going to let you get in there and get something warm to eat. Thank you also for being the member of our Discord. I really appreciate you joining our friends and being in there every day. But I'm really inspired by you, and everybody should be inspired by you. And you're going to do so many wonderful things in your life and help so many people. And sometimes it's one of those things where it really takes tragedy to create triumph. And I think you now know your purpose, and you can see that clear as day, even though you are blind. And you got the drive and the passion that's going to carry you to where you want to be in life. And it's just really great to see it. I'm glad and honored to be your friend. So
I'm honored to be your friend, man. Honestly, I am honored to be your friend. This was an amazing experience. And all the talks we've had were very fulfilling.
well, thanks, dude. I really appreciate that. So to let you get off, tell people where they can find you, because you're much more popular and you have a heavier following on TikTok, where
Yeah.
people can see what you look like before, during, and after. Triston also was huge into weightlifting, and some of those weights, dude, I couldn't even pick up. So kudos to you, bro.
Thank you. That's
So
all on YouTube. Y'all go
yeah,
check out my YouTube channel also. So my YouTube channel is it's either the underscore Phoenix 714. It's Phoenix Rising. No, it's Phoenix underscore Rising 714. So no, there's no underscore. I'm sorry, I changed it so many times. It's Phoenix Rising 714, which is the day that I had my tint on. The 14th of July. And my Instagram is at unleavened underscore dread1. I don't know if you want to help me out there, Madman. I have a hard time pronouncing things.
no, it's okay. We'll link it in the descriptions. And if you go to my Instagram, you can get directly to his content. And then his content has a link where you can see everything else. He also has a Ko-fi, which is a donation page. He also is still in need of medical attention and more surgeries and further work to get himself to where he truly needs to be. So any type of donations that you guys have, please make sure to go to his page and if anything can help. So guys, it has been a wonderful night. Thank you again, Triston, so much. And everybody have a beautiful,
And
beautiful night.
Madman, let's close this out with one last hit, man. You want to take a hit together? Same time?
Let's do it. Here we go.
All right. Ready? Go. All
Yeah,
right.
dude. Well, I'll see you in Discord later. Everybody have a beautiful night. Triston, you're awesome, dude.
You're awesome. Everybody, y'all have a great night. I thank you all for coming.
Peace out.